All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this morning's webinar from VentureForge. For those of you that have been before, you might kind of sense today as a slightly different format. Today marks the beginning of our new webinar series, which we are calling the Expert Series, and a really good opportunity for us to introduce you to other experts in the Amazon field, share their knowledge, share our knowledge. And it's going to take on more of a conversational format. We're not presenting, we're not sales pitching. This is just a chat between myself and Paul, who I'll introduce you in a second. And today we're going to talk together and bring you guys into the conversation about the critical importance of accurate and real-time data for an Amazon business. Before I go into that, I'm sure you're all expecting some kind of sales pitch from either Paul or myself. There's no sales pitch today, as I said, but I'd be a bit daft if I didn't take the opportunity to introduce VentureForge and just share a bit about who we are and what we do. At VentureForge, we're a full-service Amazon agency. We're quite unique in the market in that we're the only agency in the UK that is built by retailers for retailers. Everybody in our business has been there, done it, bought the T-shirt, and is still probably selling the T-shirts. We're Amazon exclusive. We only work on the Amazon platform, but we do that globally across all of Amazon's markets. And we're proud to carry a 95% net promoter score from our customers. So we're not only saying we're great, but our customers tell us that we're good, and they stay with us and they remain with us for quite some time. As I said, today's format is very much a conversation between myself and Paul. I'll introduce Paul to you in a second, but before we do, just two really kind of housekeeping points. We really want you guys engaged in the conversation. So if you have a quick look in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you'll see the questions section. Get your questions in there. We may get to those as we go through. That depends how much I can focus on the conversation. I'm watching the questions at the same time, but we certainly will get to those at the end. And before we get into introduction with Paul, there will be a poll coming up shortly, just to ask a quick question of you guys that are watching today and get your input. I was going to hold fire on that for a couple of minutes, just while a few more people tip into the webinar. Before we do that, Paul, can I maybe just take a chance now to introduce you? First of all, say welcome. Thank you very much for taking some time out of your schedule on a very, very different time zone, which we really appreciate. Over to you, Paul. Maybe just give us a bit of an introduction, who you are, what you do, and a bit about Merchant Spring.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me on. I know this is a start of a new series, a new format for you. So thank you for inviting me and being part of it. We love known you guys for a long time, and I love what you guys do, and I really appreciate it. So just a little bit about me. Let me just put everyone out of the misery in case they're going to try and second guess where this accent's from for the next 60 minutes. So I'm Dutch. Moved to Australia quite some time ago, about 25 years ago, but I've never completely lost the accent. So just in case you're trying to work that out. I'm a co-founder here at Merchant Spring. Merchant Spring is a retail analytics platform, really for brands, for vendors, and for agencies in the marketplace space. We've got about 13,000 marketplace channels connected to our platform, and we serve clients globally, about 40% in North America, 40% in Europe, big concentration in the UK, obviously, and the remainder kind of split across the rest of the globe. Just maybe a little bit about me. My background is actually retail as well. So before starting Merchant Spring, I spent 9 years in grocery retail here in Australia with one of the big grocery chains, running different trading teams across there. So, I know we'll get onto this in a sec, but I love trading. I love driving sales and finding more opportunities to do that. And we've sought really to bring that to Merchant Spring as well. Initially, actually as a full service agency here in Australia. And then about 3 years ago, we pivoted from being an agency to actually being a software provider in this space, and really commercialized the tool that we built for internal purposes, for external clients. So that was about 3 years, and we're well into that journey now.
Excellent. Thanks, Paul. Actually, I didn't know your background had come from retail, but having used your platform for quite some time and had various conversations with you, that actually doesn't surprise me in the slightest, given kind of what you've built in the platform, but the importance you place on certain things. But can't believe after kind of the couple of years we've known each other, I've not actually kind of understood that that's the background that you've come from. Fantastic. And can I ask, what time is it where you are now? Because last time you and I spoke, you'd just come back in from, was it basketball with your son? And kind of just delving back into work all kinds of hours to
it's actually, it's about 7 p.m. now. And I do have another this is my turn to play some basketball later tonight. So after this, I'll be heading down to the local courts for what I was told was going to be some fairly social level basketball, but as with all things, get rather serious. Fortunately, there's a drink at the end of the game, so something to look forward to.
Yeah, it's probably a bit too early this side of things to stick a drink in at the end of the webinar, but we'll hold that till later in the day. I think, Paul, before I start to kind of delve into the crux of the conversation, I'd like to open up the quick poll that you and I have talked about to the rest of the audience here. I think we're going to talk today a lot about data and the importance of data. We'd like to get a bit of an acid test for those that are watching the webinar now. Does your business currently have the ability to see your Amazon profit and loss in real time? If you spare us 2 seconds, that poll should appear to you all in the next few seconds. Really keen to see who can, at the touch of a button, pull profit and loss, not just sales, but actual profit and loss, including all of their Amazon costs, stock, etc., advertising, FBA. Who can see that in real time at the touch of a button? That's quite interesting. I feel like I'm watching some kind of live TV show here, Paul, with the shifting around bar charts.
It's I can't see the results, but I imagine things are sort of jumping up and down and slowly settle somewhere.
Yeah, indeed. We've just settled now, so that I appreciate you can't see that, Paul. What you can see for those that have entered, quite positively, 30% of people can pull an Amazon P&L, which is great for those 30% of people. What probably stands out to me more is that I expected this to be kind of a 50-50, 40-60 kind of split. But we've now got 70% of people, we've got most answers in now. It's just ticked to 67 now, I said that. But most people cannot pull an Amazon P&L in real time. I think when we're going to go into our conversation today, that for me is probably quite concerning, actually, for a channel that's all about driving profit, not sales. Any business should be about profit, not sales. But that's a bit of an eye-opener. But perhaps we'll come back to that later on as we go through things. Let's kind of kick on with the conversation, Paul. I think hearing your introduction and kind of now understanding that retail background, it's really clear that you place massive value on accurate and fast data, knowing what's going on in a business, knowing how that data is fast, reliable, accurate, and useful. Why do you see both accuracy and speed as important in data to building a successful and profitable Amazon business? Why is that so important?
Yeah, look, I think there are a couple of different lenses to that. But one lens is, going back to the trading conversation. When I was in retail, this was grocery retail. It was a day-by-day proposition, right? So every day we would open up all the press ads of all of our competitors, see what's going on across the market, and we'd make sort of daily decisions in terms of pricing and all of that. And we thought that was fast kind of trading. In the world of e-commerce, it's a bit of a generalization, but particularly Amazon, I couldn't think of a more competitive place where things move so quickly, very, very quickly. The customers are there, the demand is there, but things move very, very quickly as well. So you've got to stay on top of it. And I wouldn't say make wholesome changes, but actually just making small tweaks during the course of the day, and we can talk about some of those, can make a really big difference. That's really important. The second one, which really was really our issue as we're managing multiple channels. And for those that are tuning in today, if you're managing not just say one Amazon channel, but you're managing across different countries in Europe, or maybe you're also running a store in the US, things get complex fairly, very quickly. Particularly if maybe there's a Shopify channel or a Walmart channel or a Cdiscount or a Bull.com channel in the mix as well. It gets fairly complex, and before you know it, you find that you're spending hours just going into the back end of each different systems, downloading spreadsheets, trying to put it all together. And Excel is a fantastic tool, but once you've been in there for about an hour, your brain just goes, or at least mine, it goes mush. And then you lose that sort of strategic perspective and say, what is it actually telling me and what do I need to do? So I think, there's a real risk that a lot of the sellers just sort of drown in that analysis paralysis and don't actually get to the decision-making side of things. So there are some kind of at least two different lenses there. And then thirdly, how do you quickly get to you may run 3 different Amazon channels. How do you quickly get to, am I going to focus on content optimization? I'm going to fix some buy box issues. I'm going to fix some suppressed listings, or actually I need to take a product of sale because it's losing me money. Like, how do you prioritize as well? And how do you quickly get to your to-do list, you've got a couple of hours left in a day. What are you going to tackle? That's really important as well.
I think that's the crux of it for me, Paul. I think any data is there to inform what do you do, and it's the actions that make a difference to a business, not the data. So actually, your points there of being able to see what's going on, understand what's going on quickly and accurately, but also to do that in a way that allows you to kind of see the wood for the trees, to try and actually get to what's going on. All you're really trying to get in most instances is what next? What do we do next? Where are we taking this? So I can certainly agree with a lot of what you're saying there. And when we first started the agency, we didn't have a reporting platform, and we kind of dabbled with some of those challenges that most sellers have. How do you get to data quickly? We built our own dashboards, but then managing that across multiple sellers, multiple territories, we created an industry out of reporting.
Yeah.
And we lost. I wouldn't say we lost. No, I think that's right. I think we make an industry out of reporting distracts you from why you're doing the reporting. You're doing the reporting to drive action and drive growth. So reporting itself shouldn't become an industry. What are the kind of common challenges do you see when sellers are trying to analyze KPIs? What are the real challenges that Amazon sellers in particular face when trying to get to that data?
Yeah. I mean, there are some of the things I alluded to already, was just the time and the pulling of data and the analysis, or even those that, certainly the larger sellers, they will have built some data pipelines and everything works at the start. But particularly Amazon is notorious for making changes, deprecating APIs, changing the data structure and all of that. And you wouldn't be the first seller out there that has built something. Maybe you've got a consultant in $20,000, $30,000. It's all working. It's great. It's flowing through to Google Data Studio. It's working. And then next month, they're blank. It's not working anymore. And something is broken, right? So that tends to be, certainly for the larger sellers, a really big challenge. I think the other thing that we always found, because we started really in a manual way, we employed a team of people just to check all these different things and get data from all the different Amazon accounts. What we found was, in theory, I mean, I often hear this, everything is available inside Seller Central or Vendor Central. That's true, of course. But the challenge is it sort of all lives in different places, different screens, different interfaces, and nothing ties it really together. So it's really hard to get that overview picture, going back to the prioritization point of what we need to do. Yeah. And then there are other things that are just not easy. Very simple things like, I want to see time series data for retail analytics. Can't get it out of Vendor Central. Or I just want to see what my conversion rate's done over time for a particular ASIN. Technically, it's there, but quite challenging to get that data out. You probably get to quite a high level of frustration doing that. And then, of course, there's a bigger things like, how do I get profitability? Amazon has a settlement report, payments report, a few others, but then there's this big thing called Amazon advertising, or if you're using DSP, that sort of lives over here, separate credit cards, separate things. They don't really talk to each other. I could look wonderfully profitable over here, but then I forgot that I'm spending 30% of my revenue on marketing. So getting that picture, and we'll talk more about profit in a sec, but getting all that together is really, really challenging as well.
Yeah, but Paul and I were chatting before we came on here about potentially another conversation, which is our frustrations with Amazon as a channel. I think I've probably got about 5 different ideas just from that conversation there, Paul. But I kind of see your challenges here. The data all exists minus profitability in Amazon, but it sits in technically 2 to 3 different systems: seller, vendor, advertising. Even within those systems, it sits in 10, 15, 20 different places. So for me, running a single Amazon business, I've already got to look in 3, 4, 5 different places, then process that data to actually get something useful from it. As an agency running 25 to 30 Amazon businesses across 3, 4, 5 territories each, that's a bloody nightmare. Just to be really frank and put into good old Yorkshire language, it's a nightmare. Half the data is not there, but you need to run a business properly. Profit, we'll come on to that later, but you can't run any business without profit. I think even if Amazon did give you profitability reporting, how confident would sellers be to actually put cost of goods into Amazon's seller platform? I just don't think that would ever get to that point. I suppose it'd probably be remiss of me not to ask the question, Alan, how does Merchant Spring, how does your platform address that need for accurate and fast data?
Yeah, look, and I'll try to make this not salesy because it's not about, But really, you know what, and you know, I guess for sellers that are trying to maybe have built something like this or trying to build themselves, and this is sort of a bit that we do, right? Amazon actually has wonderful data coming in via the APIs, right? And if you can build out all these different API connections, and I'm talking, you know, traffic and conversion data out of the business performance reports, inventory data, actual order data, returns data, and then profitability data, you can put it all together, and you can build what I call the different sides of the Rubik's Cube. You know, I have this analogy that, you know, like, you know, with Amazon, it's a little bit like solving the Rubik's Cube. There are 6 or, you know, obviously there's only 6 sides to Rubik's Cube, not 7, but there are, let's for argument's sake, six sides to managing performance on Amazon. And they all sort of work together, and you need to get them all right. Like, there's no point getting your advertising absolutely right, but not looking at your organic sales and find that cannibalizes, or, you know, actually having your account health going south and your account being suspended. You need to keep all these things together. So the first thing that we do, what we try and do, is do the hard work around the API plumbing and bring all of that data into a single place. Right? That's the first thing. The second thing that we try and do is visually, through some nice dashboards that have been designed by our, you know, UI designer. I can't really claim any credit for that, but lay this out in a very clear and pragmatic way. You know, in fact, one of the dashboards that we have for, you know, we have one for multi-channels and single channels, but the single channel one is simply trying to give you what are the top 10 charts you just quickly look at every day. You know, you'll get used to them, but the idea here is you can quickly look at, you know, what is the overall status and health of my Amazon account? What's on track? What's green? I don't have to worry about it today, right? What's red or amber? Therefore, I'm going to have to spend some time on that today. And how do I get to a quick to-do list so that I can continue to work all 6 sides of the Rubik's Cube in a way? So that's what we're trying to help you solve a puzzle, you know, in a nutshell. That's we try and contribute.
Yeah, I think to be fair to point, you've done a very, very good job of doing that. And in our business, that rapidly speeds up our ability to make change and drive performance rather than spend time pulling data together. I'm seeing a few questions and conversations coming through on the chat, so I want to keep an eye on that as well as we're talking and try and bring those in at the right time. So thank you to everybody who's putting those in. We will get to those you know, as soon or as best as we can do. And it's kind of, we talked a bit about trading already, Paul, but I think, you know, as a business, we put a huge focus on trading, getting into the numbers, understanding the market, most importantly for us, understanding how to then respond to changes quickly and drive growth. I think you've already touched on how important that trading mindset is in a retail business. Do you feel the same applies to an Amazon business? I'm guessing you do, but do you feel that sellers give it the right level of attention, that trading mindset, or do you think you could really benefit from adopting more of a trader's mindset?
Yeah, look, broadly speaking, you've all types of sellers, and there's those that are very experienced, I would say, traders, and there's the less so. What I've seen here is as marketplace channels have grown and more matured, a lot of traditional brands, certainly in my background, FMCG brands, are starting to take these marketplaces very seriously. But it's a challenge for them because they've traditionally dealt with retailers, right? And they're selling, it's a B2B type relationship, and there's account management function and purchase orders being placed, and the retailer takes care of all that trading. You know, they might come knocking on the door for some code money, some marketing money, or cost price negotiation, all of those things. But the retailer has been the one with that trading mindset. But now that those brands are selling on marketplaces, they have to learn, you know, what does it mean to be a retailer, essentially? You know, they're in charge of pricing on catalog, inventory, marketing, all of that. So I would say there's certainly a part there that is not, you know, completely into that trading mindset, you know, and that can be quite a big sort of bridge to cross, you know, and I think agencies like yourself play a wonderful role in that, you know, not having to develop all of that technical expertise and that mindset internally, and sort of, you know, partnering up with someone around that. So I'd certainly, I'm seeing a mix in that space. Look, from my point of view, I love trading. You know, that's one of the things. Many years ago, when I moved into physical retail, one of the things I love about it is you're selling a physical product, and if you don't like the performance of it, you can do something about it. Typically, depending on the product, depending on the category, typically, certainly in grocery, within the week. And you know, on marketplaces, in Amazon in particular, as long as you have stock. That's probably the only exception. But as long as you have stock, you can pull levers, right? You can change the price. You can improve the content. You can throw advertising money at it. You can, do things like the Vine program. There's lots of different levers you can pull from a sales point of view, and then from a profitability point of view as well. So there's always, we used to have this saying, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And I used to say that to my team all the time, which is there's always something you can do. If you don't like the numbers on a Monday or a Tuesday, there's always something you can do to improve your performance by Thursday or Friday.
I love the phrase. I've not heard that particular version of that phrase before, but it's absolutely spot on. We've got a very trading focused mindset in the business. It comes from our retail background. In my background, we used to report on a Monday, and then Tuesday was the so what day, and you were literally hauled in front of the board. If you were head of department, it's like, your numbers are here. What are you going to do about it? And in our business, we do all of that on a Monday. How are you performing? What actions are you going to get underway? Some of that over or underperformance might be under your control. It might be market conditions, but it's all about understanding what's happening, what we're going to do about it, and move on. And it's really interesting what you say about how different businesses are maturing. I think one of the things I've observed running an Amazon agency that I probably wasn't expecting when I first set it up is Amazon for big brands is still misunderstood, or no, I think the brands are struggling with where it sits within their organization. It's almost like e-commerce as a general area was 15 years ago. Does it sit part of marketing? Is it part of IT? Is it part of retail? Is it its own division? And we deal with a mixture of people, from the CEO and the owner and founder in challenge brands through to major brands. We might be dealing with an e-commerce person or a national sales manager or somebody who's managing the grocer's account, for example, or their main high street retailer. And it's definitely more on those, dare I say, the vendor businesses that are dealing with, that are larger brands that have been historically treating Amazon like a B2B relationship. We sell in goods, we negotiate on price with Amazon, and Amazon sells the goods to the consumer. And there's the opportunity there for them to become more e-commerce-esque, become like a true brand, think more B2C or D2C, and trade on really good core e-commerce metrics, understanding, like you said, that they can drive their own destiny. That's been the big kind of learning for me over the last couple of years. Those major brands still have so much potential on Amazon by adopting that trading mindset and treating it as a B2C channel, not a B2B channel, as they historically probably will have done on vendor. Yeah.
I mean, there's still some hesitation out there. Some of them sort of not completely sure if they've planted a full foot into that space, or whether they're still kind of a little bit half-minded about it.
Yeah, it's quite understandably, there's a lot of challenges around in retail, particularly in the UK at the moment. In fact, I think most of Europe's been affected by it just as bad. But it's understanding that brands are nervous about it. But I think the opportunity exists for brands to jump in with both feet and embrace it and trade it like a proper traded channel. I mean, thinking back to my days in traditional e-commerce, is that a thing? But we used to have kind of 3 core KPIs that we ran an e-commerce business on, and it was traffic, how many eyes are on my site or on my product, conversion rate, once you've looked at my product on my site, how many orders am I getting, and average basket value. When you place an order, how much are you spending? Traffic times conversion times basket value gives you your revenue. So they were kind of interesting to use the word levers. And they were my 3 bog standard digital growth levers before you start to look at stock, price, product assortment, etc. Do you think those kind of 3 KPIs are still important in the Amazon world? The traffic or views on product, conversion, and basket value?
In a general sense, yes, but I would tweak it slightly and add some. Of course, the customer funnel is super important, because it tells you whether your pages are working, whether your conversion is working, whether your content's working, and all of that. And obviously, the more you improve the more page views you have, or impressions, or click-throughs, plus the conversion equals your orders. Generally speaking, with marketplaces, just to make a couple of general observations, obviously, average order value is not as relevant, right? Because consumers tend to purchase 1 unit from you and maybe a unit somewhere else and all of that. So there's a big average order value that I think Amazon cares about. But from an individual seller point of view, typically, the average basket size would be somewhere between 1 and 1.1 units. Certainly, that's what we see. Unless it's in a specialized type of business. In terms of the other metrics that obviously I would would put out there would be things like, when it comes to impressions and page views, very important to distinguish between organic and inorganic, right, or paid, because paid and advertising is now such a big part of any Amazon business. I've seen many stores where the vast majority of the page views are driven by advertising. So you can artificially inflate your page views around that, but it comes at an enormous cost, both in terms of spend, but also potential cannibalization. So you need to keep a really clear eye on what does that mix look like. And of course, then there's how much is your advertising, what does it look like, what's your total cost of advertising, for example. That's super, super important. The other thing that you want to start thinking about is things like your bestseller rank, right? So in an ideal world, you get to a stage where you have the #1 spot and all your traffic is organic and highly profitable. Now, probably won't happen, but one way to track that is obviously, is your bestseller rank or is your organic ranking on those pages improving vis-a-vis competitors? And there's lots of levers that you can pull there, including reviews and the like. But ultimately, it does come down to profitability, and we'll talk more about this. But Amazon is actually, it's easy to make sales on Amazon, particularly through advertising. And I might be a little bit controversial here. It's certainly in the current climate, it's easy to pump up the sales, but actually just be what I would say a busy fool and not generate any profit. And I've certainly fallen victim to that in the past, looking at vanity metrics like, oh, look at our sales, look at our impressions, look at that. What do you have to show for it in your bank account at the end of the month is super, super critical, because there's such a focus on profit. Many of us made lots of profit during COVID, but what's happened now is inventories come back, competitions come back, everyone's spending more on advertising, overall prices are going down, and it's squeezing out all the profit that you would have had 2 years ago. So, it's a real double down on making sure this is a profitable channel for you.
I think profit seems to be the key word there, Paul. I think I've got just one more question around kind of the trading mindset, and maybe we can move on to that profit side of things in a bit more detail. On the trading side, I kind of touched on those high-level e-commerce KPIs, traffic, conversion, basket value. But in a retail business, you'd also be talking about product availability, stock availability. In Amazon, you talk about things like buy box rates, suppressed listings, etc.
Yeah.
In your platform, I know as a user of that, you make it very, very easy to surface some of that information. Can you just give us a bit of insight into kind of the data that you bring to life around product availability, the impact of out of stocks? For us as a business, maybe I'll just touch on this stat before I can just hand over to you, Paul. We see that being out of stock on Amazon for 1 week doesn't just cost you 1 week of sales. We see that really costs you somewhere between 1 and 5 weeks worth of sales, because when you're out of stock, you lose sales velocity, you lose ranking, and when you come back into stock, that takes time to build up. So one of the mantras we're always banging the drum about to our clients is stock availability, stock availability, stock availability. And we know that your tool makes it very kind of easy for us to get on top of that. Can you just explain to me kind of what reporting have you got around managing stock availability, category performance, those more traditional retail metrics?
Yeah. Look, before I dump it, I just want to make one sort of follow-up point you say there. And this is where Amazon is very different to, say, running your own e-commerce website. Because there's the financial performance, but then I would call it like the hygiene, which is, first of all, you've got to make sure you've got great seller health. We can probably do a session on seller health together, but just got to make sure that you deliver for the customer. If you don't deliver for the customer, then Amazon will mark you down. And if you keep doing it, they will suspend your entire account. So you can have the most wonderful content and PPC strategies and all of that. But if your account is in a bad standing, that's going to really work against you. So that's one hygiene factor. The other one, you mentioned suppressed listings. We had an example with one of our customers in the middle of Prime Day last year. Their listing was suppressed. When that happens, you lose a lot of sales. All the hard work, the months of planning and preparation, all the stock that's sitting in Amazon's warehouse is not going anywhere. And then, buy box as well. Obviously, you're on your own website. You run the show. But on Amazon, you're competing with Amazon, with other sellers. And sometimes, Amazon will remove the buy box altogether. from you. So that's another thing you're going to have to deal with and monitor and measure. In terms of inventory, we spoke about it before. Obviously, if you don't have stock, you can't sell it. So inventory planning is probably one of the hardest things when it comes to Amazon. And, you know, worth investing the time in setting up your proper systems and processes. We help in a couple of ways. Of course, we will provide you with great rate of sale information, and we capture a lot of history in our platform. So you can go back to say, hey, how many of these units did I sell Prime Day last year? You know, you can go back and quickly do some of that analysis. But we'll also alert you if you're about to drop below a certain threshold. So let's say your lead time is to get stock into Amazon FBA 60 days. You may say, look, notify me as soon as the inventory cover falls below 70 or 80 days stock. So we can notify you proactively so that you can then jump on top of that and ideally avoid out of stocks, you know, altogether. You know, as you say, there's a massive price there.
Yeah, I mean, if you can help us and our clients avoid out of stocks altogether, you'll be an absolute savior in our business, Paul. I think we would be very foolish to kind of ignore how big the challenges of getting stock in to certain places at the moment and managing that supply chain for many businesses. A lot of pressure, but certainly being able to solve the Amazon side of that and understanding the sell-through, plan the buys, plan the replenishment, that's super important, and certainly helps businesses plan around their own supply chain challenges to make things work. I was going to jump forward a little bit in the conversation, Paul, and jump onto profit. I think we kind of said at the beginning that you're getting profitability data from Amazon. The platform is just not a thing. You clearly, and we as an agency, place huge value on getting that instantaneous feedback on profitability. You know, how have you solved that problem in Merchant Spring? What kind of profitability data can I see within your platform, and what should sellers be looking at?
Yeah, and just a little bit of context around profitability with Amazon. Amazon has a fairly sophisticated back end, all based around financial transactions and events. And these form the basis for your settlement reports, payout reports, and all of that. So what we do at Merchant Spring is we take all of those events every single day. And I think, you know, there's about, I haven't counted, I think there's probably around 100 different fee types and transaction types. It varies market by market a little bit. But we take all of those fees and transactions that basically are sitting in the ledger against your account. We're grouping them and we're structuring those into a pro forma P&L. So we're covering everything from obviously the income, the tax, other income like shipping and the like, but then there's also other things going on in your account around, you know, inventory reimbursements or refunds or order cancellations. All of that activity is going on, and then all the fees. So obviously there's the fees you kind of know about, things like selling fees, FBA fulfillment fees, but then you've got all the other fees, storage fees, inbound fees, and of course we connect to the advertising platform. We bring all your advertising costs in there as well. So what we do is we create a pro forma P&L, both at an account level. Now, there's a lot of places out there that will do this. Even there's some great plugins that will connect to Xero, QuickBooks, and all that, and they produce pretty good P&Ls. But the P&L, the account level, isn't that actionable, right? It tells you whether you should be happy or sad, but what do you do about that? So, you know, one thing I think that we do quite well is to actually construct that P&L at a product level as well, to give you very quickly for any time period that you select, you know, telling you, are you profitable or not? And giving you also a little bit more info around that, because it's not just what's the number, but what are the different cost lines and what does it look like as a percentage or as a unit economics piece? Because it allows you to very quickly eyeball and say, look, Amazon is charging me. I actually had this example a couple of weeks ago. Amazon's charging me something like £5 something per item on average for this product. And I'm like, well, that is actually a light, small and light type product. It should be we should be paying something like £2 something, but we're getting charged £8. So you can see straight away from a unit economics point of view, something's off here. And by the way, that's eating up all of our profit. It's taking up 40% of the total P&L. So will allow you to very quickly diagnose, what's going on there, so that you can go, okay, well, actually, I need to log a case with Amazon and get that reclassified. Or, hey, our refunds are running at 15% this month. That is way too high. So maybe we need to look at our content page and optimize some of that, or take the product off sale until we fix that. So yeah, we do. Probably for some of you, they're listening, probably a little bit too much detail. In addition to being a retailer, I love crunching numbers. Excel used to be my best friend in a previous life. But yeah, we try and put all of that together so you understand where are you making money and where are you losing profit at a SKU level, because that's where the trading decisions are made.
Yeah, but I think you've summed that up absolutely perfectly. As you were talking through that, I started thinking back to some of your earlier points about action. Looking at the profit and loss of a business on a monthly basis, historical, it's a retrospective. It's what's happened, it's what's gone. If you're going to respond on a monthly basis to historical aggregate data, you're not going to get anywhere very, very quickly. But to be able to look in near real time, what issues, challenges, opportunities have I got at a granular level? It's about a £5 shipping charge on an item that shouldn't be charged, £5 shipping charge that puts a couple of quid per item back into the P&L, and that can be actioned within days to weeks. And that for me is what trading is all about: seeing the numbers, ease of access to the numbers, but most importantly, clarity over decision making and really quick action off the back of it. It's something we, as a business, we put a lot of effort into that, and we're actually working with one client at the moment to retrospectively claim back a charge from Amazon for overcharged shipping, lost goods, potentially to the tune of about £250,000 is the claim that we're looking at. Such a granularity that's built up over a period of time before working with us, but the ability to spot that kind of thing, that's huge. £5 on an item may not sound that much if you're only getting £1 of that back. Extrapolate that across a month, 2 months, 6 months worth of sales, and you very rapidly build some pretty hefty numbers that should be in the brand's pocket, not Amazon's pocket. And that, for me, you've just hit the finger on the pulse of what trading is all about: getting to the nub of the detail quickly, making swift action, and driving the business forward and growing off the back of it, but profitably, not just on sales.
Yeah.
Paul, I'm just looking at some of the questions we got coming in. I think maybe I might just kind of wrap kind of our part of things up and open it up to the audience. And before we do, I've got a couple more points on the list I just wanted to kind of come on. That's been quite a broad conversation, but we seem to have focused in a lot on this trading mindset. And you talked earlier on about how some brands just aren't used to that. They don't work that way. They see Amazon as B2B. What do you see the benefits to a brand being of working with a partner like Venture Forge, a trading-focused agency, and a partner like yourselves where we get rapid access to data? How do you think that helps a brand that just doesn't have that mindset instinctively built into them?
In a way, it's a low risk. It sounds like probably counterintuitive, and try not to come across as kind of too sales here, but hiring a partner who knows what they're doing, certainly as a brand who doesn't have the retail experience, whether it's offline or online, is a great way to get started and make some traction. Right now, as you grow, one of the challenges with an agency is always, as you grow the account, if you're too successful, then the business case for the brand to just set up a team themselves becomes compelling pretty quickly. But certainly, I think the two advantages are, and particularly if you structure the commercials with your agencies in the right way, so it's a win-win. Having great access to expertise, putting the agency, as we'd like to say, on the hook to deliver the results, the trading results, but also giving you the mind space to continue to build your business. So if you're a brand owner, presumably you're pretty busy with NPD, sourcing, managing all of your other channels, and Amazon can be very time consuming, particularly if you are new and you're having to work all of these things out yourself. So I think certainly for early and mid-stage brands, partnering with someone like yourselves is certainly something I would recommend. As you grow bigger, I think then it becomes more of an open question. But certainly small to mid-stage, certainly recommend that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Paul. we know where, as an agency, we add value, and that's rapidly moving something forward where the business itself doesn't have the desire, capability, culture, skill set to make that happen. As our clients mature, I believe a part of our job as an agency is to help them bring that in-house if that's their desire. You know, we've been doing this for 5 years as an agency, but we've got 30, 40 years of expertise across the team. Moving to this mindset from a B2B business to a D2C business is not an overnight thing. It takes time, it's risky, it's fraught with challenge. I think as a good agency built on good ethics, your job is to help a business take that in-house over time. We're here to help accelerate. We solve the problem. The problem won't always exist, or the problem will become different. I think as a solid partner to a brand, you have to be open to that. You have to help them bring that in-house when the time is right. Equally challenge back and make them aware of what the challenges and pitfalls may be. But fundamentally, as an agency, you're a problem solver, and you're there to solve whatever problem the client has at that point in time, and that will develop as a business matures. I think, Paul, before we kind of close off, I want to just jump into the chat. We've got a few questions coming through here. I'm going to go through these in probably just in the order that they're in, actually. The first one we got is from Bruno. Bruno, thank you for the question. How do you see the role of the Amazon vendor account manager changing going forward? Bruno's belief is that they need to start learning programming skills, data analytics, to deal with all the data that they have access to. Do you have any thoughts on that, Paul? How will that role of an Amazon account manager change over time?
Yeah, it's really interesting here, and I'm assuming that Bruno's question comes when he says Amazon vendor account manager. He's talking from the vendor side as opposed to the Amazon side.
I've interpreted it that way. Yeah.
Because on the seller side, there's lots of access to lots of data, and part of the challenge is almost like, how do you distill all this into practical insights? On the vendor side, it's been like data starvation, right? If you want data, you need EDI specialists to try and get it out. That's changing now. So Amazon has just released, new generation of retail analytics, but also comes with a whole new API set. And in fact, they've just released some real-time APIs, or at least that's what it says on the tin. So that becomes really interesting, because all of a sudden you've got much more data at your fingertips, and it's not just purchase orders. I mean, purchase orders are not that actionable in terms of from a trading mindset, but actually when it comes to sell out data, I'm talking ordered revenue and ship revenue, there are actually some more trading actions, of course, advertising as well. You can actually adopt much more of a trading mindset. I mean, just to give you a very basic example, vendors can now see their ordered revenue coming through. So that means in terms of the catalog that I own, the ASINs, I can see page views. Obviously, I know my split in terms of organic pages. I can see conversion. So actually, that allows me to prioritize and work out where is my content working, both in terms of search ranking as well as on-page conversion, and where isn't. So I can now, as a vendor account manager, work through, okay, what are the ASINs in my catalog that I need to optimize, and I can now start to estimate with the relative high degree of certainty if I can get these particular products to the average of the rest of my account. Actually, there's a size of the price here, and I can do content changes, vendor case logs aside. In theory, I can do vendor content changes pretty quickly. Same with advertising, same thing with all the other things. So I kind of like Bruno's question, because yes, I think the mindset is shifting, both in terms of needing to have access to data and be able to do something with that, and much more of that trading mindset as well.
Yeah, I think for me, it's about the trading mindset. I think if I look at historically what a vendor manager has been accountable for, it's purchase orders. I think you hit the nail on the head with that. We're seeing a big shift in how vendor clients are tracked by Amazon. It's moving much more towards self-service. It's moving much more towards vendor. So it's the seller model in terms of how you drive sales and success, with the only real differences being the operating model and the financial model of how you get paid and when you ship the goods. I actually see the role of the vendor manager and the brand shifting to be a much bigger focus on sellout. How do you drive success on Amazon rather than how do you drive commercial success with Amazon? I think I'm trying to be really careful around my terminology here. I think there's another question around the role of the vendor manager within Amazon, the person who historically has been seen to be the holder of the secret sauce at Amazon that every brand feels they should buy into a vendor manager. We see over time the role of that Amazon vendor manager to a brand becoming less important and becoming much more about the commercial negotiations and Amazon's value rather than adding any real value back into the brand itself. We're seeing lots and lots more brands asking questions about why am I paying for a vendor manager when the focus on me as a vendor on the platform is actually to drive my own destiny now, much more like the seller model.
Yeah, I think those are really, in fact, I'm just running a poll on LinkedIn right now about the service that Amazon provides, Amazon Vendor Services.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as a vendor, are you using it? If so, is it a good ROI? Are you unhappy? Have you ditched it already? So it'll be interesting. I've just launched it, so it's too early to tell, but it's a very much a live topic, as you alluded to.
Absolutely. I think there are a lot of questions being asked. And the most common message we get is, I don't feel I'm getting value, but I daren't not do it in case I upset Amazon. That's kind of the vibe that we're picking up around the market. I'll jump onto your poll afterwards, Paul, because I think there's a few people we can push in the direction of that have got some opinions and it might have something well worth sharing. I was conscious that we kind of got 5 or so minutes left here. Let me just pull a kind of query down from further down the list. Hi guys, it's from Chris. How can we monitor buy box performance and how does this affect overall sales? I think from my point of view, buy box performance, you can't sell if you don't have the buy box. Quite straightforward. So buy box performance is a fundamental metric that you have to be on top of to run any successful Amazon business. I think, Paul, I'm probably going to do your sales pitch on this here, but for us, just being able to see a notification that product X has lost buy box, that for me just personifies why having access to real fast accurate data without having to go and check the Amazon platform, pull a report, check your buy box rates. For our account managers, being able to come on in the morning and go, I've got an issue here or I haven't got an issue here, that buy box reporting that we get from merchants for is just worth its weight in gold. We don't need to think anymore. We can just drive the action and come out the back of that. Paul, anything you want to add to that?
Look, the other thing I would say is one thing that I'm finding more and more prevalent. We've always talked about like losing to another seller or losing to Amazon. But what I'm seeing more and more now is as Amazon does their own price comparison across the internet in terms of other channels and they're scraping things, they will a lot of times take your product or take you as a seller out of the buy box. They won't necessarily put a competitor in, but there will be no buy box on the page. And really what they're doing is they're just adding another 2 layers of friction in the buying process, which will really, really slow your sales down. And you've got to be really careful there because on one hand, you might say, oh, well, no one's beating me. Technically, that's true, but you're still not getting the sales. So I just get a sense, and I don't have any data around this, but in terms of certainly our customers talking about that, it seems to become a little bit more prevalent in the last kind of 12 to 24 months.
Yeah, to fair parts of that, we can talk to. We've got a client in the beauty category who is traditionally a B2B business and sells into other digital, what I class as digital B2B channels. They have experienced quite significant buy box issues when their other retailers are heavily discounting their products. Yeah. And they've got 1 or 2 B2B customers that are what I'd call a discount merchant. They trade purely off discount rather than any other real trading mechanism. And seeing how Amazon's adapted to that over the last 12 to 18 months, brands being heavily penalized and losing the buy box because their product is not price competitive. And it's bringing another dynamic to trading for me. It's understanding as a brand, not just what's going on your Amazon channel, but the impact of your other channel activity on the success of your Amazon channel. So a bit of a diversion from a buy box question, but it does really come back to keep an eye on that buy box. If we hadn't have had buy box visibility, we wouldn't have been aware there was an issue. Now, the issue could have been resellers out of stocks, or for that one client, it was price competitiveness through another retailer that caused it. But knowing there was an issue was the starting point for us. Well, I'm going to cherry pick one great question that's coming here that I think is a great way for us to close out on from Jonathan. What do you both believe are the top 5 KPIs that all sellers and vendors should be aware of and working towards understanding and improving? Do you want 10 seconds to think, Paul? Do you want to go first?
5. Actually, the first thing I would say, I would start with, and this might sound controversial, I would actually start with your seller health. It's not actually a product KPI, but make sure that is good. Like, Amazon has different tiers. You want to be a great seller when it comes to seller health, because without that, everything becomes so much harder. It's sort of like the hygiene piece, right? Next to that, it's probably the next one is stock, right? And there's two sides to this. You can tie up enormous amounts of working capital, put it all in Amazon FBA, and then you find that Amazon's going to charge you enormous amount of fees, particularly in Q4, because the stock's not moving. And vice versa, running out of stock is really hard as well. So, having the right stock coverage is absolutely critical. Not easy, but critical. That means now we've got the base to trade. So from there, there's a couple of different ways I would go, but I would look at growth. I'm interested in building a healthy business. So I would want to make sure that, are more people then coming to see my products? So we're looking at some measure of paid user sessions. Is that growing or not? And is my share of paid versus organic in a manageable way? So I'm not cannibalizing, right? So traffic, share, conversion is obviously then key. Are my pages converting, and are they working hard for me? And then things like buy box are all kind of subsets of that. And then last, and I think I'm up to number 6 because I'm counting on my hands here, so sorry about that. One bonus one, of course, it's the profitability. Let's not be busy fools and spend all this time and energy. And I think this is the danger about having a trading mindset. It can be, there's a real buzz to like trading and doing things and seeing the numbers go up, but let's make sure we actually receive some funds from Amazon in our bank account when the settlement happens.
Easier said than done. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate putting you on the spot there. I think from my perspective, profit would be probably my number 1 KPI, but not am I making money right in this moment, right in this time. It's understanding your profit journey, because if you're building on Amazon, there may be a very strategic and conscious decision to not make profit. We have clients who strategically choose to make a loss because it drives a bigger, more profitable future picture and a more successful year if you have a loss-making month or quarter. So I think knowing your profit targets, knowing your strategy and measuring profit is by far the most important thing, and clearly becoming profitable and driving ongoing profit is, but that doesn't mean you can't operate a strategy that loses money or breaks even if the outcome is even greater. Stock availability, absolutely yes, but for me it's not just the stock number. I'm 98% in stock. For me it's also stock fragmentation. You may be in stock on the parent ASIN and you may have a particular item in stock. How fragmented are you on the stock park? Have you got, if you're selling apparel, lots of smalls, lots of extra larges of the blue t-shirt, and great, you think you're in stock, but you've got absolutely none of the medium, which is where the value, the volume, the profit, and the ongoing success of that line actually sits. So it's the depth of granularity around the stock number, not just having it, but having the right stuff in the right place at the right time. Growth, however you want to measure that, I think for me, it's your traffic, it's your sales, it's your revenue, it's your volume. But I think maybe a volume and value mix of the stock. As soon as you took 6, Paul, I'll probably kind of hold out at 4 on this, and I'll go with Tacos. I think as a brand, looking at your total advertising cost of sale, the ratio of advertising spend to overall sales, not just focusing on ACOS, the ratio of advertising spend to advertising sales. Amazon isn't about advertising. It's not about organic. It's about all of that blended together. So understanding your advertising strategy from all spend to all return and measuring that as your overall number, I think is your more important KPI for you to track. Just before Paul's giving you 6, I think we've got 10 together. We'll have to go back over recording at this point and see if we actually did get 10 between us, and if not, we'll send a couple more out on email. I think for me, that brings us pretty much to a close. I think I'd just like to, first of all, Paul, thank you for your time. I appreciate this is at the opposite end of your working day. You've got a family. You're a great partner to us, and I know that everybody in the business sends their thanks for what you do. My personal thanks for joining us today. I think to everybody who's watching, if you do need help with building a trading-focused Amazon business, both Paul and I are on hand to help, whether that's through VentureForge to help you from an agency perspective, or whether that's Merchant Spring from a reporting perspective. We work together hand in hand. We do great work together. We share a great portfolio of clients. If either of us can help, please do hook us. Reach out to us. LinkedIn. We'll follow up after this with our details anyway. But final point for me. Thank you very much to everybody who's joined us today. Thank you for putting all of your questions in. And Paul, once again, thank you very much for giving up some of your valuable evening. It's very much appreciated.
My pleasure.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.